Hey guys, how are you guys doing today? Yes, I know I'm really early and I'm sorry. Something came up that I have to go take care of at our normal Facebook Live time, and Dawn and I were like, what do we do? And I said, you know what, I'm just going to do it early because it's probably going to take most of the afternoon, but I didn't want to miss. And so I decided to just come on and do it, and people who come at the normal time can watch the replay. And I'm just very sorry. I apologize for kind of the mess up in our schedule. So if you are watching the replay, welcome. I'm so happy to have you watching the replay. I am Pam Barnhill, and I have 3 homeschooling podcasts. I'm a homeschool mom of 3 kids. I have 3 podcasts. I have 3 dogs. It's all 3s over here, and we love it. But we have the Homeschool Solution Show, which is an audio blog of the best homeschool content on the web. It comes out every single Friday for like the past year and 2 years. We're coming up on 2 years on that podcast. Can you believe it? And we haven't missed a Friday yet. And then we have the Homeschool Snapshots podcast, which is interviews with homeschoolers. And finally, the Your Morning Basket podcast, which is all about morning time. So right now, we are talking about planning because that's what we do in the late spring and early summer around here. We talk about planning. We have a wonderful planning product called Plan Your Year. It's at planyouryear.net, and it's your homeschool planner. It's a perpetual homeschool planner. You buy it once and we update it every single year for you. You print out the forms you want and need, and it also comes with a guide that tells you exactly how to do your homeschool planning, because you can buy homeschool planners anywhere. But having a handy 100-page guide that tells you exactly how to use that planner is a different story, and that is what we do. We also have a new planning class coming out. So if you would rather have a video e-course and a little more hand-holding and step-by-step, we have a video e-course that's going to be coming out late in May, early in June. So, okay, enough about all of that stuff. We have some people here, so let's start chatting. So today we are talking about, this is kind of video 3. We kind of go through all of the planning steps in a series of videos from April through June each year. We did it last year. You can find all of those videos on our Facebook page and on the website. And it kind of walks you through some extra little tidbits about the planning process. And it was such a great success. We had wonderful feedback from it last year. And so we decided to do it again this year. So we started the first week by talking about vision. We came back on last week and started talking about goals and why they're important. And then today, the third step in our planning process is all about creating a course of study and choosing resources. Hold on, he's not going away. How can I help you?
I didn't use it.
I will help you in just a few minutes. I can't do it right now, okay? You just gotta give me a few. Okay. Okay, so where was I? Oh boy, that's what happens when you have kids. They like distract you. Vision, goals, resources. Thank you, Dawn. So now we're talking about resources. And one of the things that I really wanted to talk about today was the difference between content area subjects and skill area subjects, because this is something I don't think we've ever touched on in any of our materials before. And I think it's something really important because it can totally change your life as a homeschooling mom. So let's talk about the difference between the two. First of all, we have skill area subjects that we have to do in our homeschool. So these are things like math, writing, handwriting, learning to read, probably some thinking skills or some logic might, come along in there, things like that. But those are the biggies right there. These are the subjects that you have to learn in order to get by in life, in order to learn other subjects, to know other things, to write papers in college. It doesn't matter what you're studying, you're still going to have to be able to write a paper, or to write emails to your colleagues, or put together a presentation to give at a conference, or whatever it might be that you end up doing in life. If you're a plumber, you've got to be able to bill your customers. If you're a doctor, you've got to be able to read and study. Those are skill area subjects. They're vital to our kids, and we need to work on them until our children are proficient at using those skills. Then the other subjects are what we call content area subjects. Content area subjects are not less important, but they are different. They are things like literature, history, science. And at this point, I'm talking about elementary and middle school science. You know, like if you decide you're going to go into a scientific field, well, then it very well could be that high school science that you take starts becoming a little more skill area for, I mean, it's still content, but then it becomes a prerequisite and it becomes something you have to have. But at this point, I'm really talking about elementary and middle school, and even some of high school as I'm talking about this. So literature, science, history, even foreign language for most of us is not really a skill subject, it's a content subject. So why is the distinction important? This is why. Skills are systematic, they build on each other, they're logical, there is a specific order that you should do them in. Content area subjects, especially for elementary and middle school kids, content area subjects are not that at all. They are for filling up with knowledge, learning to love learning, finding where your interests are, and you do not have to do a 4-year history cycle. We choose to do one, but do we have to do one? No. You don't have to do a 6-year history cycle. You don't have to do botany in the 1st grade and chemistry in the 2nd grade and, I'm trying to think of physics in the 3rd grade. You don't have to study countries this year and American history this year. And you don't. Unless your state has some kind of very specific guideline about what you're supposed to be doing in what year, it does not matter. It simply does not matter. And so this gives you the opportunity to follow your children's interests, follow your interests, choose any kind of curricular path that you would like to choose. Do something fun and exciting. If you get in a rut, throw off what you're doing and follow a rabbit trail for a while and do something different. Yes, Dawn, just keep learning. Also, it means if the baby comes and you have a new one and a toddler at the same time, you can let those content area subjects slide for a while. Just have your kids read good books. That's all you have to do. Just read aloud to them, play audio books. If you don't get to the end of the science book when your child is in 3rd grade, it does not matter. And actually, I would venture to say that if you don't get to the end of the science book when your child is in 7th grade, it does not matter. So keep that in mind as you're planning your school year and as you're planning your subjects. These are the feast subjects. These are the things that make learning exciting and wonderful. So they should never be torturous for your children. They should never be torturous for you. They should always be enjoyable to you. And most of the time, the other subjects are pretty torturous. So it's really good to let these be really, really enjoyable. Now let's talk about high school a little bit. To some extent, depending on what your child is going to do with their life and everything, you can have this apply to high school as well. In that, you have a lot of creativity with creating a transcript. And so you can go in and you can do courses and let your children study particular things, and then you could creatively put them on your transcript as one of the courses that needs to be done. So if your child really loves ancient times, well, if you look at most high school requirements, nobody ever says ancient times should be your course. Okay? So, nobody says that. There are very few colleges that say they want your child to have a history course in ancient times. But you can study ancient times. You can study the Greeks and the Romans and things like that. And then it goes on your transcript as a world history course. Did you cover the entire scope of world history? No. You covered what your child was interested in studying, but it can still go on the transcript as a world history course. A lot of times if they're very specific, and I always think you should go to colleges over states. If your state has no requirements for high school, go to the college that your child wants to go to and ask them what they require for admissions. What is going to make your child look good in admissions, and then do those classes with your child. But even then, you have leeway and you can do things like that. So if your child loves Shakespeare or Chaucer and wants to do an entire semester or an entire year studying them, it's British literature. You don't have to do the whole scope of British literature from beginning to end. Dawn's saying right now, an ag credit for her daughter's horse studies. Did she study all of agriculture? No. Did they go out and buy a boring textbook labeled high school agriculture that went over the whole shebang? And no, her daughter studied horses and she got an ag credit for that. So even in high school with these content area subjects, be creative and don't be afraid to step outside of the box. And once you get into prerequisites, it's going to be, so, if your child wants to take high school chemistry, then you may need to look at what do we need, or college chemistry, what do we need to look at here in high school to give them the prerequisite they need, the amount of knowledge, the scope of knowledge they need to be successful in that college chemistry class. It changes a little bit then. But, for the most part, for a lot of subjects, it doesn't change that much. So please stop stressing out and being incredibly unhappy and making yourself miserable and making your children miserable with content area subjects. Let that be where the joy of learning is for your family. Build those skills, make those skills strong, and then they'll have the skills they need to learn anything forever and ever. Amen. But for the content area subjects, just don't. And yes, the Rethinking School book by Susan Wise Bauer, she talks about this in there and does a great job with it. Highly recommend it. If you're like, well, this is Pam Barnhill, who's she? Susan Wise Bauer says it too. Yeah. And then she has all kinds of degrees. So read her book. It's really good. I enjoyed it. So, okay, I am out of here, which is weird because it's 2:03. And next week we're talking about, I think making schedules is what step number 4 is in the process, unless that was one of the ones we rearranged this week, Dawn. But we're following the scope and sequence for our course this summer. So if you've enjoyed this, if you've watched Vision, and if you've watched Goals, and if you've watched the little video this week and you're really liking this stuff, you're going to love the course that we're going to have information for you in about a month, maybe a little less. So, yeah. Anyway, you guys have an awesome rest of your day, and I'm hoping to as well. And we will be back here next Thursday afternoon, hopefully at the regular time, which is 2:30 Central. And if you happen to get to catch us today because we were early, yay! I'm glad that it helped somebody. So you guys have an awesome day, and we'll talk to you later.